And we're back with Truth Unrestricted, the podcast that is creating and interpreting the language of the disinformation age. And back again today with Patrick. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good, Spencer. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for mentioning my name. I keep forgetting to mention that I am Spencer and I'm the host of this podcast. I don't know why I keep forgetting to do that. I did it like every time for, I don't know, about 80 episodes. And then somewhere after that, I just dropped off. It's
everybody. This is Spencer.
Habits,
in case you didn't know.
Just yeah. So thank you for being a good co-host and picking up where I dropped the ball there. Yeah,
okay. I do what I can.
Great. No, that's great. So before we get started, if anyone has any questions, comments, complaints, concerns about this podcast, anything you hear here, that email goes to truthunrestricted@gmail.com. And also, spoiler warning for today, just in case anyone hasn't seen The Matrix and hasn't been completely spoiled by like 20% of every meme that's ever been created on the internet. This is your chance to duck now and go watch the movie before you come back to this podcast and listen. We're not going to do like a beat by beat, play by play, scene by scene breakdown of the movie. That's not what we're doing. There's plenty of other podcasts that do that, and they do great work. Some of them are just whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to point to a particular one. I've heard some are good, some are just okay. But plenty of people break down this movie. There's lots in it. So we're going to only hit a couple of beats that relate to what exactly we're talking about. So first of all, before I get into what this is, what's you do you like this movie, Patrick? Do you hate it? Like, what's your deal?
Oh, I really like this movie. I think it was very provocative when it came out, and it kind of stands the test of time. I recently watched it in the last half a year and watched the whole series and enjoyed it. So yeah, no, I really like this movie.
Oh, great. I needed you to do that, so I had time to do something else here. All right, so I think I'm ready.
All right.
I have a little bit of I have like a neuroticism about these topics that I do because they're fairly complicated, and I'm trying to explain something fairly complicated, and I'm actually trying to not work with like a fixed script of the fixed things to say in this specific order in these exact words, because I actually have a fair amount of problem with that. It just with the way my brain works, it doesn't work very well. I do it if I have to, but I prefer to not do it that way. So I just try to not do that. So I worry when I do these that I'm not explaining things properly or well enough or anything else. So I listened to the episode we did where we sort of introduced the topic, the sub-series, the way we're going to go about these. And I got immediately worried that I didn't explain it well enough. But I also worried that if I explained it more, I would be like over-explaining and like totally boring everyone. So I'm like riding inside my brain. I'm riding like a very thin line, and I'm like, walking a tightrope here. I'm on the edge,
I was just going to say.
Yeah. So, I wrote a little bit of a script, a small bit, not like a full script, just a little bit, a couple things, and I'm just going to say these things that I prepared as a thing to try to help explain something, because I'm worried. I'm sure everyone understands, except that I'm worried that I wasn't understood.
We want to be concise. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now that everyone understands that I'm a lunatic. So, in the introductory episode to this sub-series, I talked about how ideas presented in movies can become something that people compare with our world. A piece of a model in our subjective minds that helps some of us build our view of reality. So, friend of the podcast, Stephen Mather, he used to host a podcast called Cult Hackers. In one episode, he discussed at length this film as it relates to the idea of leaving a cult environment, something that he has a great amount of experience with. Won't get into all that why. He's been on 5 episodes of this podcast. It's in there somewhere. So we will discuss this movie from the other way, as it relates to the ways in which the ideas and the metaphors that are used in the Matrix can assist someone to question the nature of their own objective reality. In other words, the ways in which it might cause someone to leave reality and become more cultish, essentially, instead of what he was discussing, which was what he felt was real and leaving it to a more real thing, which is kind of what the Matrix is. Only we're discussing it from the other side, as though you're in a real place and you're leaving it to go to a place that's less real, which is what we're kind of seeing in our real life, is we're seeing more and more people become more and more conspiratorial. So people are seeing things in movies and TV shows, and then at later moments in their lives, they're experiencing things that they're trying to understand. And in their attempts to understand their lives and their experiences, they inevitably compare what they're currently experiencing to previous things that they've seen and experienced. Some of those previous things are the fictional representations of our world as seen on film. This happens in part because of a blurring of the lines between our own experiences and the vicarious experiences of others that we witness. And that's why we're going through these, to identify some of the moments from our visual art that may be affecting how people are thinking about and interpreting the real world, and helping them to how the art and what is happening there is helping them come to unhelpful conclusions. So that's sort of my additional clarifying bit. It might not have even been necessary, but I just to ease my own neurotic consciousness there. Yeah. So is that more clear or less clear than where we left off last time, Patrick? Or
I think that it clearly underlines the purpose of the discussion. Last time we kind of got into a bit of our toolbox, maybe without saying like, why do we have a toolbox in the first place? Like, I think that it's all good ground to cover, and maybe sometimes we'll circle back. Maybe sometimes we'll revise or enhance our understanding. But yeah, it's all good.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you for alleviating my worries.
I want to be a good co-pilot.
Great, but
you have
to tell me when
yet.
to. Great, yeah, you have to not just encourage me. You also have to tell me when to, steer one direction or the other.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Thank you. So again, we're not going to go through a full synopsis here, of course. In the Matrix, first of all, before I start this, we need to, in our discussion of the film The Matrix, that has a device in it called The Matrix, we have to come up with some kind of way to refer to these two separate things that have the same name, one on top of another, in a way that doesn't become completely unworkable. So I might say in the Matrix, but you might think in the movie The Matrix, or like inside the Matrix when you're in the movie and then you go from like the Nebuchadnezzar to in the Matrix, right? So I think we should first agree to refer to the film as The Matrix. And if you're thinking about being in the film, like a character in the film, and their relationship to the technology in which, humanity is trapped, we're going to call that, I arbitrarily picked, the facade.
Okay.
Just the fake world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not fancy, and no one in the movie refers to it that way. They all call it the Matrix, obviously, because they're characters in the movie. They don't know that they're in a movie, we think. But we need a way to refer to it. So that's just the way I came up with.
Sure.
So
I'll try to remember that.
Yep. Yeah, we're okay. In The Matrix, the film, there exists the ability to completely and seamlessly replicate reality straight to the cerebral cortex of the human mind. This movie openly plays with the idea that subjective and objective reality might be two completely separate things: a real world and a virtual world, the facade. And if you were trapped in that facade, you might actually never know. It's so seamless, you'll never realize that you're in it. As is eventually revealed to the audience, only a small percentage of people ensnared in this way ever even wonder about whether it could be real. This gives those who do question an air of importance, and by necessity makes them the heroes of the story, right? So, obviously, most of this story is told from the perspective of the humans who escape, who leave the facade and become part of the group of plucky heroes who oppose the force that's holding humanity, imprisoned.
They seek to end the facade.
Well, yeah, they seek to free humanity from this, right? That's what they, yeah. And so this is sort of where we start. Everyone understands this about the Matrix, right? But this idea of the facade world in the film The Matrix is meshing with where people feel conspiracies are in our real life world, right? That the conspiracies are existing. You can't see them. They're seamlessly interacting with our world in such a way that you'll never know that they're there, except for the few among us who can, see the evidence, right? And know what's happening by some kind of special pattern recognition of some sort. And that's kind of, this is a thing that really is where the Matrix sits in our minds. And most people who refer to the Matrix now refer to it from that perspective. What do you think about that, Patrick?
Yeah, I think that the Matrix kind of put a bug in a lot of people's minds that maybe this simulation has glitches, and that there's clues for us to see our way through and out of it, possibly, or to use this knowledge in some way to live a superior quality of life.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept you bring about superior quality of life, because of course in the Matrix it's argued that they're living a superior quality of life by being in the Matrix. Oddly.
Well, that depends on the value, though, because the value reflection there is: do you value reality? Do you value truth? If you do not value
the illusion
truth,
of choice, right? The illusion of choice. You could become a very successful business person in the Matrix. You could become a billionaire in the Matrix. You could be a doctor and go to join an effort to create vaccines or disseminate vaccines to save thousands or even millions of lives in the Matrix, right? But you can't do any of that stuff outside the Matrix, because if you're outside the Matrix, you have to have your life be constantly chased down by robots that look to prevent you from affecting the Matrix, and you have to constantly devote all your time and energy to this lower level of technology that you bend your effort hopefully to save some more people from this fate, which the fate is as far as quality of life goes, many of them are living aside from the fact that they're not the ones who are choosing what's really happening, so it's a matter of like self-determination. They're not determining their reality, someone else is. And that's kind of the real crime that we look at when we look at the Matrix. We think that the artificially intelligent computer that's running it all is bad because it's the determiner of our fate. And we're not, right?
I think too, there's something that remains constant whether you're inside the facade or whether you are outside the facade, and that is that your own sense of agency, the way that you direct and choose things, will have a very real impact on what your experience is. So when you're inside the simulation, you are experiencing things as a result of your decisions. But if you become aware that there's a truth that's present that you're not engaging with, that's where that value proposition comes, where possibly living a more gritty, more physically challenging, less sensory pleasing environment might give you a higher quality of life if your primary quality is the truth, knowing the truth of your reality.
Yeah. Your choices are only useful if they're informed choices, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the people inside the Matrix are not really informed about the true nature of their reality. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, we see their choices as being having no value at all. Unless you're
Or a
outside the
lesser value.
Matrix,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're trapped in the Matrix, you don't know about the fact that you're trapped in the Matrix. We see the people in that situation as having no real choice. It's just
Mm-hmm.
an illusion. Yeah. Which is
And
why
I don't know if,
we yeah.
I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
I don't know if this fast forwards in our discussion, but that's where you kind of see a bit of the friction between people that try to use this because they want some sort of value recognized because they have made a confrontation with what they consider the illusion or facade, and they want some sort of credit for having chosen the thing that wasn't preferable or wasn't easy. And so we see that analog a lot of the time in the discussions where, I think that people, whether we call them closed-minded or not, they have closed their mind to the option that anybody who hasn't confronted what they've confronted has anything to contribute.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
know if I kind of went off the rails there a little bit, but
No, that's good. Yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted by a thing. I need to turn my phone off or put it down. That's
no
bad.
worries.
Uh, so let's slip into this here. I do have a couple of moments that we're going to use as touchstones for some of the moments to talk about. I didn't bother to make them video clips. I just made them audio clips. It's a audio podcast that also goes to YouTube. So
Mm-hmm.
this kind of levels the playing field for everyone, right? People who are just listening get the same thing as the people who are watching. But the people who are watching get to see both of us, shiny, happy faces, Yeah. But anyway, the first thing I want to mention about this movie was that it does have an extra interesting part in that it was made by a pair of people that at the time we referred to as the Wachowski brothers. And I remember that this was how they were credited in the first Matrix film, the Wachowski brothers. Since that time, that has changed. They are now the Wachowski sisters. They both transgender women. At the time that in 1999, when this first came out, no one except for them, or maybe a few people close to them, but no one in the public life knew this about them. So this hasn't become like much of a trans movie, right? Like this isn't a movie that people trot out as a sign that yes, some people point to trans people who have achieved some form of like celebrity and say these are people who recognize us, make sure we don't disappear and that sort of thing. But they don't really do that with the Wachowskis. I don't really know why. The Wachowskis wrote this film, and it's sort of the ideas about its break in reality and the idea that you're living in a life that isn't really real, and you might want to leave that life for perhaps a much more difficult life that's more real to you. And they wrote that metaphor with the idea of being trans in mind, particularly. And this adds, like, if you examine the movie from that angle, it adds a bunch of interesting pieces that if you don't have that bit of information, don't really catch. For example, one such one is that that was meant to be in the film, much more underlined in the film, but wasn't. There's a character named Switch that was meant to be, I think, one gender on the Nebuchadnezzar in like the real world, and then have the opposite gender when they were in the facade world, right? and this was supposed to be this extra thing, but I don't know, it didn't get included. I'm not sure exactly why. There might have been, you know, some executive somewhere that said, oh, you can't have this, or it might have been that they just didn't have the budget. I don't really know. But that was the thing. That's the character was named Switch for that reason, that they were going to switch genders literally when they went into the Matrix. And of course, when you're in the Matrix, you do have some control over what you look like. You're not defined only by what you look like in the real world. Everyone who was born I did it. I said the Matrix instead of the facade. When you're born in the facade, when you're born in the facade world, your body has all these little plugs and jacks on it. And so when when those characters are on the Nebuchadnezzar, they have these things on their bodies for the nutrients to get pumped in and for the information to get jacked into your brain. But they don't have these when they're in the facade world, because the way they imagine themselves is different than, the way that they are, right? So this is already like this sci-fi version of you get to kind of be who you really want to be, which I think was part of what they were going for in a roundabout sort of way when they made this movie originally. They weren't really thinking about conspiracies. They weren't really thinking about this in that way. But like most art, the artist doesn't really get to control the way everyone else interprets their work. So in the metaphor that they created, this just landed way harder for people who had conspiracy notions than it ever did for trans people. I think that's already fairly interesting, that they weren't really going for one, they were going for a different one, and then it just worked better for this one. I mean, that sort of thing happens in art all the time. There's a huge number of songs that meant one thing and are taken in a totally different way, and c'est la vie. That's the audience gets to make up its own mind what they think of your art. That's but we're going to start with the one we have to start with. You always have to go first with the red and the blue pill. This moment where, we see it through the perspective of Morpheus saying this to the character Neo. You're making a literal choice between two realities. And it's a choice that we presume, at first we sort of assume that is a one-way decision. You can't be halfway. You have to make this choice, and from this moment on, you either have to carry on as though, no one ever made this proposition to you. It was just some kind of weird dream, or you come with us and you become part of the real world, and your decisions have consequences, is more or less the choice that's being made here. So I'm going to play a little clip. It's just a half minute or so of the audio of this pitch being made, and then we'll talk about it.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Matrix.
Yeah, so he didn't mention the red or blue pill. I didn't find that part very compelling, not nearly as much as this moment where he's introducing the idea that it's a has that conspiratorial feel. There's something wrong with the world, and then no specific reference to what it is that Neo feels he knows is wrong with the world. Just a reference to it as a splinter in your mind,
a sense of unease.
Yeah, and then it's leads off essentially to an assumption that yes, that there's this problem with the world, and I know how to fix it. Come with me, and we'll fix it together. And this is the pitch, right? This is this moment. And I think these words And first of all, how great is Lawrence Fishburne, right? Man, I could listen to
Yeah.
that guy. I wish he just read audiobooks and just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. But this this pitch to be like, we all know there's something wrong with the world. This is incredibly vague. So to then say, yeah, something's wrong with the world. I have the solution. The solution is that, the Illuminati are running the central bank to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have the solution. The solution is that the UN has cobbled together to lie to you about the shape of the planet and it's really flat. No one knows why that makes sense. But to some small percentage of the population, it does make sense. Weirdly. We don't know why. Because it's hard for us to see it from their perspective. But, but what they all agree on and what they all agree with me on is that there is something wrong with the world. But, getting to the point where get that step from, yes, there is something wrong with the world to, okay, so now we have to, get rid of all the vaccinations, or, what are the other flavors of this? We have to, be racist against some specific group because they're the group that's making everything terrible or whatever. This gap between there's a problem and there's a solution is this murky black box gap that's essentially being used by Morpheus to recruit Neo. But this is essentially a big thing that's being used to recruit everyone into a more conspiratorial mindset, right? Like this pitch by Morpheus, that is the pitch. That's the heart of every pitch in this world. And I think this moment, this is a big reason why this was a big moment for a lot of people, because we do think there are things that are just not real in our world. We do think there's people lying to us all the time.
That's, I think, the core of it is the nature of deception.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Being able to identify the deception, or to be able to plant the seed that what you're seeing is not merely the product of your ignorance, like used academically, like what you don't know, but actually is
someone using a calculated effort to deceive you specifically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the heart of the Matrix. That's everything that the machines, we don't really have an embodiment of them. The only embodiment we have in this first movie is Agent Smith. He's kind of the highest ranking program that we run into. And even that, he's only a program. He's not a thing. He's just software. Which everything in the Matrix is kind of just software. I don't know. It's just they all have avatars and yeah. So yeah, this moment and this pitch, this is the one that sticks with us more than any other. Yeah.
Actually, if I can extend that, because I know that like right after that clip, then begins the presentation of the red pill, blue pill. And I think that's actually worth looking at in terms of this discussion, because it's a character check. When Neo is presented with that choice that you can either take the red pill and see how far this rabbit hole goes, or you can return back to the life that you know with no clue that any of this ever happened. The character choice there is, do you accept and willingly receive the deception, knowing now that you have seen some nature, that you've seen some clue, some glimmer of the underlying structure. Only people that have the good character will say, okay, I want to shed myself of the illusion and choose to know the true nature of things.
Okay, but let me flip that on you, Patrick.
Sure.
What if it's only the people who choose the red pill are the ones that upon which we bestow the mantle of good character.
I think that's true, though. We do
Right.
bestow that character of being good for saying that I will not accept deception.
Right. Okay, but what if Morpheus is the one who's deceiving here?
I don't know. That's a prior patch of
Well,
motivations, right?
right. Well, in the context of the film, we come to not understand this because there is a thing called a Nebuchadnezzar, and there is a moment like he lives through this moment where he gets pulled out of a vat of goo, right? And
Right.
it's been feeding him intravenously his whole life, and he does all these other things, and it's not clear how long, weeks, months, it's unclear how long he takes after getting out of the vat of goo to like be learn the kung fu and be ready. We're told that it's
Yeah.
faster than anyone else or whatever, but what does that mean? What faster than anyone else? So it never gives us a time frame, and of course there's
That's
also
just
no
a plot
sun,
device that
so
he's the chosen one, right?
he's the one. You got to go talk to the lady, and she'll find it. She'll tell you things, and so that becomes. But among people who think of themselves, think of the world from a conspiratorial perspective, they universally think of the willingness to disbelieve the official bits of the world. The willingness to not believe those is the thing that's called good. And this is also why most of these beliefs tend to blur in with each other and associate with each other, because each of these individual groups that has individual beliefs, the flat earth community, the anti-vax community, the QAnon community, the all the other different disparate groups that have actual different beliefs, those beliefs start to bleed in together because on some basic level, they all believe that even if that other group doesn't believe the exact same things we believe, we do like that they took the red pill, that they're willing to at least not believe the story that's being told to us, right? So
Or express doubt, even.
Well, or at least express doubt, but like they understand that even the QAnoners will look at the flat earthers and kind of sneer, but deep down inside they're like, yeah, but at least they're not going to just believe the mainstream media as it tells us everything, right? And that's a part of this too, is that we're not going to cover. I've already determined, I don't care how much complaining there is, we're not going to cover parts 2 and 3 as movies. They're just okay. If I have to do another episode where I talk about the Matrix, I'm fine, and I'll include little bits of it. But in those subsequent films, we learn that there are other ships than the Nebuchadnezzar, and there's other captains, and it's a bigger world on the outside of the facade world, right? And they don't always agree with each other on exactly how to do things, and that's interesting or whatever. But that's almost like another direct analog of how all these sort of conspiratorial groups sort of associate. They have a general goal, a common goal among themselves of sort of an imagined takedown of the entity that's trying to deceive them. And that's the essence of recognizing that even if the QAnoners will look at the flat earthers, whatever, and say, well, at least they're willing to take the red pill. If we needed something, if we could point to the, found the heart of the thing to take it out, we know that they would work on taking that out just as much as we would, because that's the point, right? Is to get rid of the deception. To all of them, it's almost always the mainstream media is the main enemy. It's kind of whatever. But yeah. So I don't think we need to talk about that anymore. It's good. I want to get to the other ones. To me, they're more interesting actually than the red blue pill. So we have a running theme throughout this movie, and less so in the subsequent to, about fate, right? It's mentioned several times. In fact, sort of like, I think it's just before the clip I just showed, they mentioned fate there. I think Morpheus says something about ask him a question and why do you do what you do, and Neo says, because I don't like the idea that someone is choosing everything for me. I want my life to be my own. Like I want to choose my own fate, kind of thing. But we're not going to pick that moment to have a clip of. I actually have a different moment. Get it ready here, which is the well, I'll just play it. I'll just play it, man. God, tell everyone everything and then do it. Here we go.
But you're not going to anyway. And don't worry about the vase.
What vase?
That vase.
I'm sorry.
I said don't worry about it. I'll get one of my kids to fix it.
How did you know?
Oh, what's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
Right. So this, I felt, was just one clip that caught the one moment where they circle back on this idea of do you really make choices that could change what happens in the future? Is your fate a fixed destiny, or is it something that you can make a decision that's free of that fixed destiny, right? Are we in a determinative universe, or do we have like true free will in the freest sense? I've consistently avoided in 22 episodes or something so far of the whole discussion of free will from the what might be called like the Sam Harris free will perspective of the he wrote a book called Free Will, and he has a whole spiel about it. He does all the time about free will and determinism and what those are. It's interesting, but I kind of avoid it. I kind of hate it. I suspect that there's something else happening there that I can't prove in any way, and so I just avoid it. But from this perspective of this movie, what we have is we have an artificially intelligent machine that is running many parallel programs that are making predictions about the choices of the minds of the people that are inside. Right? That's essentially exactly what we have. And so each of the minds inside is trying to work out the value of their choices. And we discussed already at the start that we as the audience and the characters who have come out of the facade world tend to feel that the value of the choices of the people inside that world are effectively null, because they have no determining factor. Nothing they do will make any real change in the greater outcome of anything.
Well, almost less than null. Like it'd almost be negative because they're acting as batteries to continue running the machine that has enslaved us.
Yeah.
So we're rooting against the end of that machine and the end of enslavement, right? I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it, right? Like, yeah,
well,
I don't.
Sure.
Their decisions don't impact the real world, except that insofar as if maybe everybody in the Matrix woke up and the things came flying off everybody, well, then what is that machine running on in this new world, right? So,
well, okay, but why don't they just start slipping red pills into everyone's drink then?
I don't think that the pill itself, well, he does say after
Timothy
that
Leary just pour it in the water. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here?
These red pills are very expensive, even inside the facade.
Yeah, wow. What does expensive even mean?
Yeah.
When you're making up your own reality? I don't know.
Yeah. Facade dollars.
Yeah. Right, like Canadian Tire bucks. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, but here we have another circle back on it, and at first glance, like years ago when I looked at this, movie and was, thinking about it idly in my time, I kind of thought to myself that this whole thing about fate, it was just an extra bit that they're putting in to sound more clever than they probably really are, these people writing them film or whatever. But now, of course, I have I'm more wise. I'm older. I don't know if you noticed. I'm older, and I feel that I've seen more life and I understand more things. And I think, of course, that I was wrong when I thought that earlier. I think that this is a bigger part of the story, about the point of the story, that the whole reason why, I mean, in the context of the film, the whole reason why Neo is the one is because he is essentially the only one who can make choices about his virtual world. When he's in the virtual world, in the facade, he's the only one that can really make truly determinative choices. He can break free of all the things that are being thrown at him as reality. I mean, there's a bullet going towards him, and he's able to stop it, right? He's able to slow down time and make it just go away. He's able to hold up his hand, all the bullets just stop, and no one else can do that. Even the agents can't do that. They know more. They're essentially looking past what would be like the fourth wall of the facade world, right? Because they know that they're in a facade world at the very least. But they can't do that. Their bodies can survive a bullet because apparently they just know it's not real, so who cares, But
they also can't control his ability to do that, and they have the bird's eye view on the source code, right?
Yeah.
He's just intuiting it by feel.
Right. And so how this occurs is never explained. It's a black box device. Even when you go into hacker films, there's plenty of movies and TV shows that include hackers or whatever. It never tells you how the hacking works, right? This is a person that might as well be in a wizard hat that just kind of, uses a Harry Potter wand and, says some words in Latin and, Leviosa, whatever, and poof, and it's done. That's essentially the level of thing that's happening here. We're left to, we imagine that it's, we would rather see them punch each other with kung fu than to see, like, it's much more boring to think of them that, in this scene where it's Morpheus and Neo and they're doing the kung fu against each other. It would be pretty boring if it was two guys at two terminals madly typing in there, sending bits of code at each other. Like, no, I'll get you this one. No, you blocked that one. No, that would be incredibly boring. No one's going to watch that, right? So having everything have these avatars, but then a bullet, like, why, like what does a gun even mean in this context? Like, doesn't make a lot of sense. But as far as choices go, Neo is the only one who can make choices that really matter. He's the one who can express true free will. A sequence of events that leads to a bullet killing you would be completely beyond your control for everyone except him. So this is sort of the heart of the piece, and I think it's a thing that people think about with their how they view reality, right? How they view the world. Can they really make a choice that will make a difference about the future? Can they really make or will it, if there's doom on the horizon and I don't know, the planet is going to escalate in temperature until all the plants die off and then we just all starve and eventually die as a species. If that's just going to happen, then what choice could we ever make that's going to make any difference? This is sort of a level of a fatalism that has sort of seeped into our culture in this way. No single one of us feels like we have choices that matter in our greater world, right? When you vote, there's a lot of people who just don't vote because they don't think that their singular vote will really make a difference in the total outcome of a really large election. And some portion of us just sort of weirdly feel that way. And I think they should probably still vote. But some of them, even if you manage to get some of them to, some portions still wouldn't. It's just a thing. And I think this idea that their choices don't matter is at the heart of that set of choices. Where am I going with this, Patrick? Save me. I'm rambling.
Well, it's I think if we tie it to conspiratorial thinking, I think that for people who give themselves permission to dismiss certain beliefs because they've been presented with something that is attractive, because it makes them special, it makes them feel like they are the one, for them to say, oh no, I don't believe that the world is round, that is their stopping of the bullet, because the bullet reaching them would be, them having to believe, like the rest of us, that there's overwhelming evidence.
Yeah, right. This is why you're here. This is why I asked you to do this. That was great. That was great. You earned your keep just there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. So,
well, that's it for me. No, just
leave on a high note.
Stanza moment. Yeah.
I'm gonna do the last one myself. This paperwork. Okay. So we're gonna do the next bit here. It's there's another moment that a lot of people refer to, and this is what encapsulates it here. Let's do this.
Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon?
Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends. It is only yourself.
So, yeah, to me, this is the biggest reason to come and want to discuss some of the things in this movie. There is no spoon. You bend your mind, right? To me, what I think they're going for, when they wrote it, was this idea, again, that you have some say, you have some power over how you interpret the world that determines something about yourself. But it leaves behind this idea that you can reimagine parts of reality to suit yourself. And if your will is strong enough to ignore enough of reality, you can create your own reality. And this is part of what's contained in the idea that there is no spoon, and it's that you bend your mind. Mm-hmm. And this is a mind-breaking sort of idea that you can create your own reality, that no one else knows that I can bend spoons. Who cares? I can bend spoons and it's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. No one else realizes that the earth is flat, but who cares? I realize it. I'm good, right? I know that the truth, and despite the fact that everyone is going to try to, if I mention it, everyone's going to try to, convince me it's not because they're in on it or whatever. Where are you on this, Patrick? This idea that people take this idea and try to use it in some small way, get the idea that they can create their own world, their own reality that sometimes significantly parts from objective reality.
Well, first of all, I want to see their cutlery drawer and see if any of that's come to bear, right? Because I think that for a person to really subscribe to that belief and make it a center point of their way of being, I don't know. I think people are to different degrees are convinced by things either more easily or less easily than others. I think that it's a really provocative idea. I think it's worth everybody kind of engages with that idea to some extent, because
Probably.
there's a lot of discussion too about, well, what is there such a thing as objective reality in the first place? I look at a lot of what informs and kind of governs people's attitudes towards how they fit in the world. And two different ideas that I have found useful to compare and contrast are that, or just as it's encapsulated in one kind of statement, is that there is not one world. There are, like if there's 7 billion people, there are 7 billion worlds. Each person carries a representation of that world. And that's all well and fine as long as the boundary of that belief doesn't overlap or affect or, impact other worlds. But we do consistently find ourselves sharing this community, this common space of this planet or where we live and things like that. And so I don't know. I don't know how useful it would be for me, if I'm holding a spoon and I think it's bending and everyone else can still eat with it, despite in my mind it's twisted. So I don't know. I don't see a lot of use in carrying it beyond asking yourself the question and having that kind of little, wiggle in your psyche of wondering, how many things does this apply to? It probably applies to some things. There are things that, part of our worldview are only informed by our belief, but some of it has to be informed by what we're receiving in terms of sensory information or communication from other people.
Yeah. So, first of all, we don't have to get into it now, but I assure you objective reality exists.
Sure.
We can go over another day if you like, but
well, if the tree falls in the forest,
it does make a sound, and even if
Sure.
no one's there to hear it, because I know the factors that make it happen, and they will still be factors even if no one's there.
Okay, but sound is a perception, right? Sound is a perception.
Is a vibration
it's not merely
of particles traveling through a medium.
Okay.
that's the case. That is the case. You only hear it because those vibrations vibrate. Well, it could be the case that what you hear when you hear a tree falling is slightly different than what I hear when I hear a tree falling. Mm-hmm. That might be. In the same way that it might be that the thing that I call yellow might actually look different to you when you look at that same yellow thing. But if you understand it as yellow and I understand it as yellow, and it has light of a specific wavelength that is the light that we, that wavelength is that wavelength regardless of any other factor. That's objective reality. But what's interesting to me is that not only is this, in this situation, this purports to create the idea that the spoon doesn't bend, that the mind bends. No one who generally discusses the fact that this is already, as it's portrayed within the film, a flawed metaphor, because it means that whoever this kind of oddly creepy British child is bending Neo's mind when Neo looks at the child holding the spoon up and bending the spoon.
Yeah.
That's what that would mean, right? Like, but
how did the child bending their mind then bend Neo's mind?
Right. I bent my mind and you saw it happen. Mm-hmm. You see my mind bend, you saw the spoon bend. Like, already this is a flawed metaphor. It sort of works because we don't know what's really happening in the, and the Matrix is just a facade. It's just a visual and audible sort of interface with the world. Presumably you can taste and smell things there too. Whatever. It's just for our sensory phenomenon. But yeah, essentially what this child is saying is, hey, fucko, I just bent your mind. How do you feel about that? But we tend to not look at that at first, right? It's this sort of, it almost leans on some things that happen with like sleight of hand magicians who appear to bend cutlery and spoons and this sort of thing, right? They do these things. They do illusions, sleight of hand illusions like this, and they're not really bending spoons in the way that they're doing them. It's a neat trick, but again, they're also not bending spoons. That's impossible, or at least impossible to do it in the way that they're pretending to do it, right? I think that I even have a few other episodes. I had an episode about belief itself, in which I discussed how some people have come to believe that they can create the world in using their will. If they express their will strong enough, that the world will sort of move aside. I mean, this is sort of the idea that comes apart in this book, The Secret, that was sort of pushed by Oprah for a very long time, that there's a secret to how to succeed, and that this is just thinking positively, and the world just opens up for you. And it's super easy to say, but it's actually much more likely that the people who succeeded were lucky, and it didn't have anything. In fact, I imagine there's plenty of cranky people who got lucky enough to become rich too. They weren't positive at all, and they became famously rich. I think we can even find some in our world now, right? But
I think the purpose and the point of The Secret, I mean, the takeaway there, that, like, I mean, in a very concrete sense, is that our attitude directly impacts what we see in our world, and people who don't believe things are impossible will not take the steps to make those things manifest, right?
Although in the way that it affects your choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a realistic interpretation. The Secret itself being like, oh, well, just think and believe was a little woo-woo, but
that leads to beliefs like it's not really a disease that's killing you, it's just dis-ease, and if you just stop thinking so badly about this thing that's killing you, it won't kill you anymore. It's just the power of this word that you've allowed to infect your brain, which isn't how objective reality works. You can have a disease that's killing you whether you believe it or not, right? That's So I want to move on before we kind of run out the clock here on another aspect of this movie. I don't have a clip to go with it. So, but there is a running, it's not really a theme that they meant as a theme of the film, but it is a sort of almost like a trope that gets transported and sort of placed also upon many of our conspiracy beliefs, that some people who point out the sort of unwieldiness or unlikeliness of some of the greater, more ridiculous conspiracy beliefs, what they try to point out about it, which is that what you tend to get in like a grand conspiracy is an imagined powerful group of people, usually people, sometimes aliens, sometimes lizard aliens, whatever.
Someone has to be the architect.
Someone has to be a sort of the thing in charge of controlling you. There's a group that's all powerful and in control of basically everything, but they're also completely inept and unable to stop the plucky heroes from probably winning. And this disparity in power level is, I think, probably has no greater disparity than is displayed in The Matrix, because in 1999 we didn't have a domestic spying program like a national security advisor hadn't been caught by, Kevin Snowden hadn't left and published a bunch of documents that showed that the NSA was trying to collect a truly massive amount of data on literally everyone to try to, stop, they said stop things from happening that were bad, but was also kind of spying on ordinary citizens, because no one really believed that a set of computers could have enough memory and power and everything to actually sift through all that data at that point in time. Which is why it's not really an idea that shows up in The Matrix. But now we all have this idea that yes, they definitely could by year 2010, 2011? I don't even know when Kevin Snowden Kevin Snowden? No, Kevin Snowden's not the guy. Edward Snowden.
Edward
Snowden was his name. He left the NSA as a contractor to do all the things he did to publish all the documents. And he, that was part of a program to do that. Literally, if you had a computer that could put every bit of information into your brain about the world, you wouldn't stand a chance. You would barely be able to think anything that was outside of a certain set of norms without that computer going, I know about this guy. He's going to steal candy. Watch him. He's going to steal from this candy drawer coming up. He's going to do it. In fact, I can even do things that encourage him to steal that candy. Because what is he hungry? Oh yeah, he's hungry. I know. I made him hungry. I have control over his brain. I can make him hungry because he can't really feel his stomach. I tell him what he's feeling, right? Like if you had a machine that had that much control over you, that it controlled when you felt hungry, when you smelled certain things, like a thing that was dangerous or whatever, you wouldn't have senses. You would have only whatever senses that machine let you have, because it's literally giving the information to you. And so the idea that this machine could be doing that, control all the sensory information you receive, but still be unable to deceive you enough to prevent you from working with anyone else to do anything. Like you might walk up in the facade world, you walk up to someone in the street, you think that's a person. Could be another program. Could be that everyone you know is a program. None of them are people, right? Like it could be a separate facade world for every person. It would be somewhat more efficient if they were all in the same, or just in a 1 million per facade world kind of thing. But if the machine is literally giving you every bit of information that you have, it wouldn't let you read dangerous literature, and it wouldn't need to have a book burning in order to prevent you from reading dangerous literature. Anything that it thought could allow you to form independent thought. What 1984? That's not a book. That's not a book that it would let you read. Are you kidding me? Animal Farm? There's no book called Animal Farm. You're going to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that's as dangerous as it's ever going to get.
Yeah.
Great book. You'll be so entertained. You will
know where your towel's at.
Yeah, that's right. You'll read Infinite Jest, and you'll read all kinds of other great fiction that will not lead you or encourage you in any way to think anything other than what it wants you to think. And that's it. It has that much control. So, but the idea that it's completely unable to stop these humans from, countering it in this way, it's a thing that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. These two things don't work. And of course, this is a trope that is amplified by Hollywood movies in this way. The antagonist of the film needs to be powerful and dangerous, always. Because why do you have a film at all if the enemy isn't, if they're just mundane? You're not going to tell that story. No one's going to want to go to see that movie.
Yeah.
But you also need your heroes to have long odds of winning and also to win. So your antagonist needs to be powerful, but also unable to stop the heroes. So in films like, Spider-Man, right? You kind of get this. There's going to be a powerful villain, and then Spider-Man has, powers of his own, and he can overcome, and that's great. That's less of an idea of this. But in this story, this idea, the Matrix literally, the facade, the machine controlling the facade literally controls everything. Much more so than the idea of the deep state or the Illuminati or whatever the hell it is David Icke talks about with the lizard people. Much more so than them. It controls literally everything everyone sees, hears, feels, smells, tastes.
Yeah, it seems really weird that that machine intelligence would be aware and orchestrating and responsible for all communication that we
Yeah.
regard as senses, and yet not be in control of, be like, oh, these people are meeting up somewhere and
Yeah.
conspiring
Pretty
against me. It's like
suspicious.
you're the one feeding that information into that
You're the
human
one
who's
letting
acting
them
like a
see that
battery.
street. Yeah,
Yeah,
that street corner or the alleyway or whatever where they're meeting. You're the one letting them see that alleyway.
yeah.
Yeah, why don't you make it a bar mitzvah and put a bunch of, fake people around there, whatever, that are, make it anything else. I don't know.
Yeah.
The precipice of a volcano. I don't know. It could be anything. Literally anything.
Yeah, the
Blare
movie doesn't
sirens when they
really-
try to talk so they can't speak loud enough to hear each other. Like, so easy to prevent them from coordinating. And that's an idea that sticks, that is presented in The Matrix. It's not explicitly stated, but it carries through. I mean, that thread, I mean, it's a, what I say, common Hollywood trope for a reason, because these Hollywood movies, they need a very dangerous villain and also a group of plucky heroes that defeat it. And they need to have that disparity. But that's a fictional disparity. That's not a thing that arises out of real life. Right? It's so, yeah. That's where I'm at. That's where I got to. We have, there's a bunch of other themes that are in The Matrix that either didn't have time for or just got pushed to lower on the priority scale to not get mentioned. But I'm going to mention them as a thought that if people send me feedback that they'd like to hear those ones as well, we'll do another episode of The Matrix. I don't care. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to list them. Let me get to the list and then I'll list them. That's the order of events because it's cause and effect. Okay, so Cypher being treasonous. That's one we don't have time for because we're running out of time right now. We were going to mention today, but some future episode, maybe if we ever do it. Cypher is an incel. That's a fun topic. But we're not going to get to it. Humans as a virus is a thing that's pretty much explicitly stated at one point in the film. Has a great clip. It's another one that a lot of people refer to a lot, but we're not going to mention. Obviously, we don't have time. We're not going to mention it. There's a huge number of Alice in Wonderland comparisons. That might be a fun to do an episode just about Alice in Wonderland and then reference The Matrix from it, because it has this whole mirror world, imaginary realm aspect to it. I don't know.
Well, it's introduced too when Morpheus mentions the rabbit hole. Like that's a direct reference too.
Yeah, I mean, there's many other there's other direct reference too. There's tattoos that are shown that have the white rabbit, and follow the right rabbit is the thing that's mentioned in the beginning. And there's many other points too where there's this, they were very obviously using that as a touchstone for their work, and now I say other people who make conspiracy stories use this movie as a touchstone for their own conspiracy story work. So on the artistry goes, right? But of course in The Matrix, the film, there's all kinds of things going on with reflections. They're not usually directly referenced, but there's a huge number of reflections in the filmography and the actual camera work that are really interesting. I don't know. I determined that we're not going to talk about that unless, I don't know, someone decides it's something that they really want to hear about. So with that, those are the things we're not discussing. And yeah. So
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it'd be interesting to hear from anybody watching this if they think that if they had an alternative interpretation of some of the things we talked about, or maybe if we left something on the table that was
really
kind of
juicy
germane
bit.
to the discussion. Yeah. Well, yeah, something like that would be.
Too bad you didn't
know.
mention that. You really flubbed that one.
Sorry, everybody.
Well, undoubtedly we did miss stuff. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
I never said I was perfect. I
It'd
didn't
be
call
nice
the
to see
podcast
something.
I am perfect the podcast.
It'd be nice to see what kind of engagement that this
Yeah.
possibly triggers, right? Because then
I'm
that's
terrible at
where
creating engagement about the podcast. It's a thing. So yeah, by all
everybody
means,
write in. If you watch this, just
flood
write
the
in and
zone.
let Spencer know. That's Spencer, how much you like the podcast.
yeah, truthunrestricted@gmail.com or Twitter or Facebook or wherever you happen to know that I go. I also go to Blue Sky every once in a while. If I had more feedback there, I'd go there more often. I'm probably not going back to Threads very often though. Sorry for anyone who goes to Threads. It's kind of terrible. Sorry, it's just kind of dull.
That's how
Anyway.
I feel about Blue Sky, but whatever.
Well, I know a lot of people who went to Blue Sky and they like it, so I guess there must be something good happening there. But
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just don't know what it is, so I don't want to trash it right now. Yet.
Yeah. I'm
But-
not trashing it, but
yeah.
when I first went there, it was basically 80% of people were self-congratulating themselves for not being on Twitter anymore. And I was like, I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
platform for me, but
Yeah, I don't know. If your whole identity is that you're not the other identity, then yeah. I
Yeah.
think they got over that after a couple weeks. I don't know.
oh, good.
That was Threads for a bit too. At the very start, though, it was like, oh, there's so many people here. Look at how many. Yeah, look at all the things. We're just like that other place. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the other place is great either. Don't get me wrong. Just that when I want to find out what all the deranged people are thinking and saying, that's where I go. It's if you want to sample from the petri dish, you want the petri dish that has the most interesting things going on.
It's got to be
in it.
representative
And-
for sure.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. So,
All right.
yeah, we'll just cap it off. So, till next time.
See you later.